there are 4 futures that are built around the uncertainties of global cooperation, which we can all agree is in an interesting fractured state at the moment. But one of the other polarities is in the next decade, do we find a way to rebuild? And then because of the future of work, one of the highest levels of uncertainty was around the relationship of people to work, their form of loyalty, and I mean that their form of loyalty, and how strained they are. And that created 4 different futures, which I will come back to in just a moment. So we added to these future of work uncertainties a number of library uncertainties. So we're in the kind of discovery and defining and documenting phase of this. And we talked about the relationship between libraries and publishers. And I'll just kind of walk through these very quickly and let you read as I do that. Content control, who has control of content? As you can see, there's examples of textbooks where California and Texas do not have the same texts in the same textbook. What's happening with copyright law? Does it favor authors? Does it favor publishers and content aggregators? And of course, we see a lot of that driven into the AI discussion. What drives political decision makers, decision-making, facts and evidence, or ideology? The access to information for work and life. Do we have the information that we need? And is it considered accurate, or is it misleading? And do we have to spend a lot of time trying to figure out what is right and what makes sense for the work that we do? Or can we kind of assume that the information we're getting is pretty accurate? Fairness, equity, inclusiveness, and social equity. The work experiences are fair and inclusive, or discrimination becomes increasingly prevalent. So those are the kind of axes that we work through on these. All of these, from a architecture standpoint, each scenario or each uncertainty has its polarities, and then it has evidence that shows that this is uncertain. So there are multiple perspectives on each one of these uncertainties that then makes the case that we don't know how they're going to turn out in the future. The impact of culture wars. And again, this is one of the ones that's kind of driving that healing and reconciliation future that we're looking at in a few moments. Civility of civil discourse. Polarization, misinformation, toxic behavior versus respectful communication and empathy. Propensity for sense making. How do we make sense of the world? Do we trust information? And so you can see some of these do end up kind of overlapping, and that's okay. Access to the necessary and emerging technology. Do we have the technology access that we need in order to make sense of the world? Do we have access to the technology that we need in order to do the work that we want to do? And in very specifics, what's the adoption of spatial computing experiences, for instance? Is it everywhere and we're overlaying this and virtual reality that, or is it spatial computing for work and fun and it's a momentary thing that we get into, or it's something that applies to a particular way that we work? And other than that, we don't really think about spatial computing. So again, we're just starting to see Apple move into this space. Of course, Meta has been into this space and redefined themselves around it. But just in time for AI, if we were in 2017, 2018, we'd be doing this whole talk about virtual reality and libraries, not about AI. And so even though it has moved, it has not overtaken the world as many pundits thought it would. And so that's something to keep in mind as we think about AI in the future. Is, are these effusive forecasts really going to be meaningful as we go forward? How do we think about impact of numbers? So the analytical side and the number data-driven side of libraries. I know some libraries have, for instance, the demonstration of because you checked out these books, here's how much money you've saved, and trying to bring data-driven interactions with customers. The pace of AI diffusion, is it going to be rapid expansion as we've seen already in the last year, or is it going to be steady but controlled march? In scenarios, they do not go, the current moment does not disappear. It moves forward and nothing disappears. So we're going to have AI in the future. The question is, how widespread is it going to be and what's it going to do? And what's it going to do, for instance, with metadata? So a lot of library science, kind of the practical side of indexing and card catalogs, et cetera, is about metadata for collections and books and content. And AI maybe that may be one of the places that it heavily disrupts some of the work that we do in libraries. And what's the role of AI? Is it going to be a co-pilot or an overlord? I do not believe that the current architectures of AI are going to wake up and do everything, but we may make choices as people that give it more power than it may deserve, or that we may, or that we should. And those are human choices. They have nothing to do with the AI itself. It is how we implement it. And so that is a social phenomenon and perhaps a political phenomenon, not a technological one.